Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we're going to take a look at the crypto prices, and we can see getting a little bit of a pump here off the low. Basically, I didn't do a video yesterday, but the day before we had a couple different options on the table, basically looking at this area here as a resistance line, obviously. And when we got up here, a couple things was said. Number one, we can follow the fractal and kind of flag out a little bit and break out. Or number two, we can come down, you take this whole wave right here and you cut it in half, about 50%, and you can come down. And that's exactly, what we did. Almost hit that 50% area of this wave. The third option, obviously, is to come down and retest the bull market support band. So this is continuing to rise. We did test it here on the weekly. So it can do something like this and go, or this is a flag, right? And we're flagging out and we're about to, create somewhat of a base in here and start breaking to the upside. So that's kind of where we're at here. What do I think? Well, I think it looks pretty bullish right now, actually. We were talking about this flat here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? We had 1, 2, 3 that broke the top. Then we had a rejection in here. So we said, okay, well, it looks like a flat. Well, we came down and 5 waves down in here. Obviously, it's going to be more of an expanded flat. So we have 1, 2. We have 3, 4, and 5. You can also say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which would probably be better because the fourth wave is a little bigger here than here. So we have all the conditions for a flat. For an expanded flat. It is a little big, so I don't really like that. I mean, the length of this wave is pretty big, but it's still in the cards. Let's see if I put a Fibonacci extension from here all the way back up here. We exceeded the 2618. So typically in an expanded flat, you kind of want to come between the 1618 to the 2618. So we overshot it by a lot. So I don't know, if it's still on the table. It still looks good. It still looks very corrective. You can see this wave right here. If you notice that, it's pretty impulsive, right? So then if you look left, we see correctiveness, right? And that's kind of a clue to what the price is doing. Obviously, it could be a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, right? And we can be ready to just dump. But that's unlikely, in my opinion, because of everything we've been talking about, especially when you zoom out. When you zoom out, let's go to the weekly first of all. Check our weekly candle. It still doesn't look too good, but I really like our previous weekly candle, this one here. That is a beautiful bullish hammer candle. We came right down to the bull market support band and we got bought up instantly. So typically the next candle, right, could in fact retrace 50% of this wick. It can come down and fill in some of these gaps down in here. Worst case, it can come back and make a slightly higher low. So here's your low. If we go up and hit the bull market support band again, we're going to make a slightly higher low. So you can see how it's elevating. So that's kind of where we're at on that. Not too much has changed. We still have a nice A, B, C right off the bull market support band. So we have 3 waves, right? And now, when I zoom in a little bit here, let's say the 3-day chart, you can kind of see, we're holding support and we're getting rejected from the downside, which means, like, if you draw a base in here, we're starting to, base out. So we had our first drop, bought back up, came back down, made a slightly lower low. We had a bearish engulfing 3-day candle. We had a bearish engulfing or a bullish engulfing 3-day candle. Then this candle retested the bullish engulfing candle about 50%, you can see here. And now this candle here is actually holding support in the middle of this engulfing candle. So that's a lot of TA I don't see out there, is basically looking at the candle structure. So it could be a little challenging, but if you can read the candles, you got a leg up. I'm nowhere near an expert on that, but I've had pretty good experience, and I think I'm getting better at reading it. I mostly do, Elliott waves, phases, fractals, sequential, and bull market support band, things like that. Candles, I'm really starting to hone in on that because they do tell a story, and we got to learn how to read it. So again, this candle brought us down. Basically, every candle has a job to do, right? Look at each candle doing a specific job. This candle's job was to get back down to the bull market support band. This candle's job, right, is to say, we don't want to go down there. We want to come back up, right? We got bought back up based off of this wick coming down here. This candle's job was to say, okay, we got bought up pretty big, right? We met 100% of this candle. So I'm going to come down and take a breather, 50%, right? And we held support here. This candle's job, hopefully, is to hold support of this 50% of this candle's retest, right? So right in here, right about 61K, I would say, right around there. So we'll see if that works out. Now, this candle has 2 days left. So if we do come down, I would like it to be a wick, right? Not a body. I don't want to see a body of the candle being down in here. If it does have a body, we don't want it to break these bodies, right? We don't want it to break those bodies. So a wick is fine. Actually a wick would be beautiful, because then we would have 2 tests of the bull market support band, right? So when I go back to the weekly chart, I don't know if it's going to look okay. Yeah, it looks good. So something like that, but then we want it to be bought back up. Problem is, we're already on Thursday, so I don't really see too much movement back down. I honestly think from now till the end of the weekly close, I think we're going to start leveling off in here. The reason why is because you can see we're starting to hold some support in here. The wicks don't all line up, but you can see, in this zone, right, we have some support, right, from this candle, from this candle, from this candle, here, 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 and here. So we all have these wicks in here, which means there's a price level that they all have something in common with. So that's kind of where we at on there. Going back to the smaller time frame, let's see if we can make out the wave structure here. So what I like about this is, when you come down and you look at the candles and we hit the bull market support band, you get green, red, green, red, green, red, green, red. That's often a sign that we're probably going to reverse back to the upside. If it was coming to the upside, right, if that same thing was going to the upside, it's probably an indicator we're going to come back down. If I turn on the sequential, now it varies from time frame to time frame. I like the 4-hour chart. Why? Because I have a 4-hour 9 here that called the exact bottom, right? This was a buy. Let's see, let me zoom in here so we can see that. There we go. You can see the arrow, right? It's a green 9 buy signal. Now, just because you get a 9 doesn't mean you buy, right? You got to have other things in play as well. For example, where's the 9 coming at? Well, the 9 is coming off the bull market support band, number 1. That's very good. Number 2, where is it in the wave count? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have 5 waves. We have a wick on the weekly off the bull market support band, and we have a 4-hour 9. That, my friends, is a good setup. Now, if you want to be a little more comfortable and not necessarily buy right around here, what you can do is, you see these red dots here? So you see these red dots? That's basically when this 9 kind of gets activated. So you can see we came right up to the dot and we got rejected, rejected, rejected. Then we broke out, and then this candle came all the way back and retested more than 50% of this breakout. This candle here was sort of an indecision, and then the following one was a breakout. So what I like about it, right, if just not financial advice, but if you wanted to trade this, you can either buy the 9 or the following candle, or you can wait for the price to break above the red dots so it can fully activate it, right? So anywhere in here would have been good, because you can see we bounced off, we came up, and we went sideways, right? We're going sideways. So here's the bottom of the range, here's the top of the range. We're going sideways at the top of the range, right? Which means we're trying to break out. 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 Now, the longer it takes, the more weaker it gets, but also the longer it takes, the more susceptible you are at coming back down, right? If buyers don't step up. So, you could have bought DCA'd in here a little bit and then buy the breakout of this. Now, that broke out pretty quickly. I wouldn't buy it all the way back up here, because now you're running into resistance, right? This could have easily came back down in 3. Just talking about trading in terms of trading, right? You have 1, 2, 3, and we hit right in here. Obviously, it turned into more than 3, but you don't know that until after the fact, right? And that's kind of what you want to see off an impulse. So not only we had this impulse, right, and then we kind of flagged out a little bit, and then we had another wave to the upside. So we had a pretty nice wave here, and look at this. We had a 9 sell, right? So we can see the 9 sell right here. In this indicator, I don't always show it, right, because I usually show it during trends, not so much consolidation areas, but it is helpful. This indicator is called TD sequential, but you can't really find it. If you want a different version, then I want you to look right here. See this? It's called trend reversal predictor, right? This is what you want if you want to play with it, right? Now, you can't use it alone. You want to use it in conjunction with other things, right? You want to use it with other things. So we have, we had a 9 buy, right? And we came up and we had a 9 sell. And look what happened, right? We printed these red dots, right here. So all of these red dots, and then look at this. Rejection. Look how, aside from these 2 candles, look how nicely the 9 worked as resistance, because I didn't put those dots there. The indicator does, right? Same with these dots down here. The dots down here are basically your setup support lines. So if the price were to dump, you can have some support down in here. So, this is our support lines in here, if in fact it needed to come down and test it. So you can see, this 9 right here. holding red, it's resisting the red dots, and finally we came up, we had a topping tail, this candle here, and bam, we got rejected. So that was kind of your signal, like, okay, this 9 is not going to budge, right? Because the 9 doesn't mean necessarily you sell. It means we can either have a pullback and continue on, or we can have a reversal. In this small time frame, it was a reversal, so we came all the way back down. Now we have the opportunity to reverse the price again. Why? Well, look at this. We have a 9 buy right here, right? And what I like about this 9 buy is, it didn't call the exact bottom, but it did occur right around where a base should be located. And then it also occurred in a 5-wave sequence. So talking about that flat A, B, C, and in wave C we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? Something like that. So it's coming off the bottom of the 5th. Is there any divergence? I don't think so on this time frame. No, there's no divergence. Is there a hidden bullish divergence? No. If I zoom in, you probably get a little bit more. Let's see if there's any divergence on the 1 hour. No, there's no divergence on the 1 hour either, but that's okay. You don't always get it, so you kind of want to see it, right? Now if this comes, now we could have one more wave, right? Let's see. The RSI came up pretty high. So you can see the RSIs. Basically, you have hidden bearish divergence because this high, you're going down. This high is equal with this high. Now, as an investor, as a hodler, these things really don't matter, right? Because you're in it for the bigger picture. But if you're interested in the short term, that's kind of, if I'm putting a video out almost every day except the weekends, then that's, kind of where we have to look, right? As in the smaller time frames as well. So if, for example, this was a flat A, B, C, right? If it was a flat in here, then we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We should have one more wave to the downside. This can come down and create bullish divergence, right? So now we have a low and a lower low, and we have a high, a low and a higher low. So that's kind of what I would like to see, and that would be an opportunity for a trade, right? Now this can turn in to a trade as well, but we want to break above this 9 over here. So this is actually on the 1 hour, right? So we have a 1 hour 9 right here, right where these red dots are. So if we could break above that and then get a 3-wave pullback, that could be a trading opportunity as well. But going back to the 4 hour, it's looking pretty decent so far. I don't like this candle right here, because when you have a breakout, when you're going higher and then you're followed by these dojis, right, it kind of says, no, I'm not ready to go yet. So that could mean more consolidation in this price range, and that would make sense because you can see all these candles right here. So all I got to do is just drag it out, and we're stuck in this range right in here. So it's a pretty significant range. So this is a pretty significant time if we can break this range. And then it also, if you extend it out, you can see just how significant it actually is. So I would have liked to have seen this continue, to hold with that fractal. It came a little bit deep, but basically come down and hold this area as support. You could see support, 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 support. But then we broke through it because we came down to tag the bull market support band. Then we shot all the way up. We broke above it, which is very, very good. And then we come down, we want to hold it, but we slid underneath it. Now we're right back in it. So we really want to see this thing, that 62 to 62.5K be broken. So I think the big goal for Bitcoin is to stay above 64K. If it can hold 64K and demand that zone, then it'll be good. So, but yeah, I'm liking the way it's coming down. It's not coming down impulsively like this. It's coming down correctively, which is what you want to see. So, let's see. Did we break out of the downward resistance line? So I could take a line right here, put it at the top of the wick, put it all the way down, and we did. We broke out of it. That's good. That's what you want to see. Now, people say, oh, trend lines, this trend line. I'm not a big trend line guy, but they are important. And if you use it with everything else we just talked about, then it can also help, right? Think of it like, I've been liking, have you ever seen that show, Forged in Fire, right? Where they make knives, they make swords and things like that. I kind of like that, how they do all that stuff. And, they got to use the tools that they have, right? So any tool that you have, right, why not use it? So all of these instruments we have. Now, too many tools can clutter the workshop. So you don't want too many, but you want enough to get the job done. But anyway, we have, it's a good show, by the way. We have a bullish engulfing candle that broke this 9, which is important. And now we're sitting here above the downward resistance line. So we're looking good, right? We're looking good. We've got a potential, at least a bounce, right? Because we can see, right, I'll put the Fibonacci here. If that's the low, we could still have another low, but I'm not too sure about it. Let's see, where did we get on this side? Is that the, okay, so we did make it to the 50%. So let's talk about that first. So we had a 50% correction, right? Which is exactly what we talked about. We can say we're either going to flag out or we're going to have, this wave right here. And basically you cut it in half, right? You basically cut this wave in half. And that's most of the time where you pull back to. Now it can go a little bit deeper. We could have one more zone. If we do have another pullback, we really want to stay above 59K. Or really 59.9974, right? And I think anything, I think the whales, I just like to put myself in their shoes, right? If I'm a Bitcoin hoarder, what am I trying to do? Well, I know 74K was the all-time high. I know my projections are north of 100K, but I don't want to pay a lot. So when I zoom out, I'm looking at it, right? I'm looking at this whole thing, right? Think about the institutions. Think about BlackRock. Think about the ETFs. Think about all that stuff. Think about what they want, right? Well, what I would want is a $60,000 Bitcoin. I mean, I'd really like a $50,000 Bitcoin, but you have to take things in consideration. Like if obviously a $50,000 Bitcoin would be better to buy, but at what cost, right? Because you would damage the structure of the chart, right? You would damage, it's not long-term damage. You're just going to have to endure it. And these guys have all the time in the world to play around, right? So, but locally, I'm looking at 60,000. And if I can dip my toes under 60,000, right, that psychological round number, and if I can get down to 59 just for a little bit, I think that's where the support is going to be held up. We can see, and I didn't even, without even looking, right, you can see this came down to 60,000. this wave came down to about 60,000 as well. So look where we are. Look where we bounced off of, right? We bounced off basically this zone in here. So from this high down to here, right? You can see the price broke to the upside, and now we're sort of back testing it and holding this low as support, holding this low as support. So that's important. That's very, very important that we do that. So that is actually a good thing, and that's nice to see, right? So yeah, and then real quick before I forget, just a little recap on the fractal, and we'll get more into this because there's some other things I want to talk about. This is not a quick 8-10 minute video where I just give you my thoughts. This is actually learning how to look at charts, and maybe it's not your style, but it's definitely my style and it works for me. So I'm thinking it's simple, it's not complex. I mean, you look at some people's charts and they got lines all over and all these different things going on, and it's kind of, I like a naked chart, right? I like my chart naked, and then we can start putting things on it to see it, right? Because when you have too many things on the chart, especially a lot of people out there don't know how to trade confidently, right? So they trade, most of the people are hodlers and investors, but some of the people who trade, right, maybe they might be good, maybe they're starting out, whatever the case may be. I would say most people, it takes a long time to learn, right? So I think my channel is geared more towards that type of crowd. So I don't know. Let me know in the comment section what you think. I do like to get quick updates out when it's appropriate, but since we have all of these different things going on, like for example, if we break out, everybody's excited, right? Let's go, let's go, let's go, right? So they want that sort of instant gratification, that sort of instant understanding, and that's fine. But when we're in boring land, I mean, we're not doing anything, right? We're just basically, this is very complex in here, so it takes a higher level of understanding, right? And since you ain't got nowhere, right, the price ain't got nowhere to go, then might as well sit back and talk about exactly, right? Because corrections and bear markets, that's the time for learning. Bull markets and impulses, that's the time for, proper getting excited, right? There's nothing wrong with getting excited and having a quick update on, confirmations. But anyway, so looking at this, right? Looking at this here, we can still see the fractal in play. It's a little bit deep, but just take a mental screenshot of that. So here we are, right? I mean, this is kind of what we've been following. Maybe it holds true, maybe not, but this is what I would like to see, right? So I would guess if it's gonna, it's nothing's 100%, but if this is the fractal, if this is what, is happening, then we're somewhere in here, right? We're somewhere right in there. I can draw the line right there. Basically, you can see a shoulder, a big head, and another shoulder. So it happened rather quickly, but again, we came up, right? We consolidated in here, chop, chop, chop. We came down, hit the bull market support band, bought right back up, right back to this resistance in here, flagged out a little bit, and then had a nice breakout. So look at it real closely and then look at this. So we have the same type of behavior that's happening. Now this is pretty big. It's pretty big, but it's okay. It's not out of the norm. And the reason, somebody who's starting out can say, well, it's different. Well, we have to adjust things, right? Because remember, when you look at this one, this current price, we broke above this low here and this low over here, right? So when we go back in time, you could see this wave coming back up. We did not break above this low here. We held it as resistance. But we did, however, break above this low, which is good. And look what happened, guys. Look what happened. We came all the way up. We rejected this point, but we held support on this point, right? So we kind of got stuck in between, which was an appropriate correction for the circumstance of what this wave was able to accomplish, getting above this side but not this side. So taking that in consideration, now going back to where we are now, and by the way, look at this, we're pumping right now, 62,000. Let me look at the small time frame here. Yeah, we're pumping a little bit. Maybe it could be, you know, a move down and a bear flag and then a continue move down, or maybe a 1-2-1-2. Maybe we're just gonna grind our way up. We'll talk about that. But what I really wanted to talk about is, let me go back to this time frame here. So now, taking that into consideration, look at the difference between that and that, right? Obviously, this wave was deeper. This pullback was deeper, but it looks nice. I mean, this looks like a nice pump and a nice pullback. And it came right back to the 50, and we have a bullish engulfing candle on a 4-hour 9. But so let me switch gears, what we were talking about. So this wave, right? Remember the fractal. The fractal did not break this wave. It couldn't do it. But this price, we did do it, right? And also the fractal broke above this as well. So it broke above this and it broke above this, which means what? Which means from the ratio of the fall to the ratio of the pump to the upside was actually stronger than that previous fractal, right? So which means what? Well, because this is much deeper, it earned it, is what I'm trying to say. It earned it, right? Because it broke above this, it broke above here. Now the other wave only broke above 1. So it only needed a small pullback, right? This came all the way down. It came all the way up. It broke this and it broke this. And it broke this up here. So, you know, it deserved this big pullback is what I'm trying to say, which is actually a good thing. And then again, look at this. I'm actually going to take a bars pattern so we can see it side by side. Look what it did, right? It came back and it held this area as support, right? It's also holding this area as well. And what I like about it is these two areas are matched up. This one's not way down here, way up here. I like how they're matched up. That means there's confidence in that area. So we have resistance, right? We came up, we sliced right through that resistance, and now we're back testing it as support. So now, to understanding all of that, right? Take a mental screenshot of everything we just talked about. Now look at this. So here's and you can say, well, who cares about this? This happened back in 2017. Well, it matters because it gives us the roadmap, right? It gives us clues to what happened in the past. So you could see, right, the current Bitcoin price, it broke above this side. But this one, it didn't, right? It's slanting to the downside. Now, granted, this crash was a lot steeper than the crash we had, right? It was a lot bigger, which means on the way back up, it was a lot harder to come back from, right? But, you know, things have a way of balancing themselves out. So we got rejected here. I mean, we came close, but we got rejected here, but we did break above this. So I'll put a line here and here again, and you can see, actually let me put that up to the body of the candle instead of the wick. We can see, let me zoom in, right? We came up and got rejected, but we came back down and held support, right? And it made that type of V bottom type of look here, right? So now fast forward to today, what do we see? Something similar, right? We have this area right in here, right? We have a shoulder, we have a head, and maybe, just maybe, this is all leading into what I'm saying. This probably is leading into a cup in here, or a shoulder. So we have a shoulder, we have our big head, right? And now we have our right shoulder, potentially. It's not confirmed yet. We don't know if that's the case. It could easily come down and test the bull market support bit, right? But that's why it's all about probabilities. I don't know for sure that's going to happen. All I can do is look at what happened in the past and kind of gauge things based off what happened back then to what's happening now, right? It could be a completely different fractal. It could be a completely different structure, but I'm still really liking it, right? There's a lot of points that were hit, so it increases the probability of what we're talking about. So the main thing I wanted to take out of this is we're holding this, and we're holding this, and we back tested that, right? I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better. And this pullback, right, it was perfect. Why? Because it came back 50%, number one. It can go a little lower. It can go to the 618, even the 702, but we don't want to play around too much in there. If we do, we just want it to be a wick. So, that's, I didn't want to do a video yesterday. Nothing really changed. So, I'm doing a video now, and look at this. It looks pretty good, right? Let's see. Did we break above? Yes, we already talked about that. So it definitely broke above the downward resistance line. So our next job is to get back above, what is that? 62.5, 62.6. And right now we're at 62.3. So I don't think it's going to do it in a straight shot, unless, of course, this was a flat. But what it also kind of looks like, is some type of falling wedge. I don't really like it too much. Let's actually zoom in to the smaller time frame. Aren't we all having a good time? Let me know. Okay, so yeah, it's not really sexy. It's not really nice, but it's doable, right? I mean, it's still got the somewhat of a converging trend lines. But either way, it's fine, because we have number one, an A, B, and a C. This could be a flat. Now, let's talk about alternative, right? If that's not what it was, and what else could it be? Well, the other thing, what it can be, is, this could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And now we have an A, B, C here, right? So we have A, B, and C, right? And now we bottomed out, and now we're starting to establish a base in here. Maybe we can tag the low real quick, but before you know it, we're off to the races. Something like that, challenging these highs up here. That's one way you can look at it. The other way is to say, okay, if we come up here, right, now we can talk about the Fibonacci from here. If we come up here and we get rejected between basically this chunk right in here, then maybe it's a B wave, right? And what I mean by that is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Or maybe 5 ended here and this is some type of flat B, something like that. Or we can have, because it actually, there's 2 ways for this. Basically what I'm saying is A, B, C, then go, just so we understand, something like that. If that's the case, which I don't really think it is, but it could be, right? Anything's possible. If that's the case, then what is the B wave? Well, the B wave we have, it depends what this is here. If this is an A, B, C, some type of big flat, then we can get it over quickly. If this is a 1, 2, 3, then it'll take a little bit more time and then we come down. So, we're hopefully, this is the bottom, this is the top, and now we're going to come back and go in between point A and point B, and that's where the decisions are made, right? So that's kind of where we are with Bitcoin. Now, if I had to guess exactly what it's doing, I would expect it to come back at least to 63K. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen today, tomorrow, or in a straight line. If this is a flat A, B, C, then we're probably going to have another hit to the low. Then we can start working our way back up. If this is a, now I think would be a good time to zoom in here. So it looks very 3-wave-ish. I mean, I guess you can say, no, I don't think so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't look right. I would say 1, 2, 3. This is 4, and maybe we can get 5. If we can do that, then I'd feel a lot better. But if we start coming back down, then I want to look at this to be held right in here. So 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, and then 5. So that's kind of where we're at on that. If we break below, then it probably looks like this would be a flat. So A, B, and C, right? So A, B, C, and then we come down. And we take out this low. Or maybe it's a running, maybe it's, no, it's not that. Well, maybe, if we take this low, I'm pretty certain that would be at least the local low. So, but that's the small time frames. It can be a little confusing. But that's why, when you zoom out, and again, forget all that stuff, right? The main thing is we're holding support here. And that's what we want to see. Now we do have one more area right there, right? So we have this order block in here, about 59.6. So we could still come down there. So as long as we hold between here and here, I say that fractal is still on the table. If we don't, and we come down lower, then I'm going to be looking at a different fractal, which is basically, what we've seen in THETA, right? So what happened with THETA? Well, we came all the way up, and then we came all the way back down. Here's our low, here's our higher low. We hit the bull market support band, we hit it again, right? So when you look at Bitcoin, we could see the same thing, right? We have the low, we came all the way back up, we can come all the way down. Here's our low, here's our higher low. So it'd just be basically a different fractal, right? So if I zoom out a little bit, this fractal here is actually pretty decent. You can see, right, we made a low, we came up, we came all the way back down. We didn't take out the low, we made a slightly lower low. So maybe Bitcoin is somewhere right there, right? We need one more drop before we can get going. So we have two fractals to lean on. So that's kind of, what we're looking at here. And let's see, anything else? I think that would be it. So one last thing would be to say, which is actually very bullish, is, let me actually put a line here to here. So it's possible that, if we start rounding up in here, right, what do we have? Well, we have a shoulder, we have a huge head, and we have another shoulder, right? So what would be, for fun, what would be the measured move on that? It would be, I'm actually going to put it from there to be a little more conservative, but essentially that would be about $74,000, which gets us exactly back to the all-time high. Basically, if we, it actually gets us a little bit higher than that, depending where it breaks out of, right? And I didn't even go the full length of the neckline. I went based off this one, but if I did that, and I came up to here, and I dragged it there, let me try to get it right about there. Yeah, it's a little bit higher, so about 74, almost 75K, right? So somewhere in that zone is that measured move, if this is what it is, right? It could be, it's possible. So yeah, I would say we're at a very, very big moment right now based off what's happening in here, right? By all means, we need to stay above 56.5K. Then 59.7, and then basically 60K. So this is basically our support area here that we really want to stay above. And then down in here is our gray area, right? So that's kind of where we are. Now, if I had to guess, I would assume that we hold in here, right? Maybe we have one more low, but I think we can hold above 59K, right? Above 59.8. So 59,800 to 62,000. We have 67, 61.7. So we have about $2,000 plus wiggle room in here. So that's how we're looking at it. Now taking everything off, when we look at the 4-hour, or let's look at a higher time frame now. Now when I look at the 10-hour chart or something higher, we do have 3, right? 1, 2, 3. Right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Now we have somewhat of an engulfing candle. So it's looking good. Let's see how it plays out. I wish we could have got this candle yesterday, and then today, usually Thursdays are always, I wouldn't say always, but a lot of times are pumpy days. Or so it seems it's been like that. Maybe not so much recently, but in the past they've been pretty good. So I'd rather have the price pump towards the end of the day or towards the end of the week than the beginning of the week, right? So we can get a stronger weekly candle. So that's kind of where we are. on the price of Bitcoin. Now, the last thing I would say is put your retracement up here. Put it right there. The big goal for Bitcoin is to get between 67 and 71K. So basically that yellow box there. And the target would be $84,000. Between 84 and 85,000. So if we can get up there, I think that's a very, very good possibility. So basically think about it like this. If we could break this yellow box, then this is where we're going. If we can break this yellow box between 67 and 71, then I really believe we can hit 84, 85. And if that's the case, then we can look at the altcoins. And it only took 50 minutes to talk about it. Now we can spend another 50 minutes talking about, the altcoins. Well, what I like about the altcoins is, let's see, what do I like? Well, our resistance line is right about here. And, we came down, we tested it. We came up, hit the resistance. Cup into the resistance. Cup into the resistance, right? If we can get another cup into the resistance, right, you can see it's starting to shape like an ascending triangle, right? Cup, medium cup, small cup, right? The cups are getting smaller, which means the support is rising, which means the resistance is weakening, which means the probabilities of us breaking is increasing. So, yeah, A, B, C, D, E. It could be a triangle, right? A, B, C, D, E. So finish up wave E, and we can break out of here. So I think it's looking good, right? As so long as everything holds up with Bitcoin. Now, we could come down a little lower. Let's see if I put this line here. I mean, that's kind of where we are. So we could technically get a little bit lower, maybe down in here. So if I put a horizontal line, that would be about 620 billion. So right now we're about 650 billion. Jeez, that's a lot of money. What would you do with $650 billion? That would be so much money. I mean, it would take 10 lifetimes to spend it, right? I mean, it would just be ridiculous. Hopefully you guys don't need that much money to be well content. A little bit of money goes a long ways. A lot of money might not. If you kind of catch my drift, right? Because people, when you look at these lottery winners, they're multimillionaires, but they're broke, right? Because you have to understand, if you come into a bound of wealth, your living conditions often change, right? Your standards, right? Which means your lifestyle. So if your lifestyle costs more money, then you need more money to sustain that lifestyle. So for me, I like if you can live cheap and happy and also be rich, you have everything right. But if you need an extravagant house, an extravagant car, that's fine. But to have multiple houses, multiple cars, you have to keep up with all that, right? If you understood how much money, if like some people want a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, if they hit it, then that's fine. They earned it. But think about how much the insurance will cost. Think about, all of the taxes and things like that, right? People don't really take that into consideration. For me, I just need a simple house and a couple nice cars for me and my wife, and spend the rest traveling and eating good food. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. I don't need to do anything insane. Like a lot of people, I've seen these stories where they come into money and then they spend it on this and this and this, and they just spend, and then they're broke. So for me, it's like, if you come into it, have your money work for you instead of you working for money. So maybe in the future, instead of selling your crypto, you can borrow against it, or lean it out, or loan it out, or you can, maybe you don't even have to sell, right? Maybe you can use it. Wouldn't it be nice to go on Amazon and buy stuff without having to pull out your credit card? You can buy it with Bitcoin or buy it with whatever, right? I think that should come soon. So anyway, that has nothing to, that's, we're ranting off here, but anyway, I like what I see. I mean, I like this 10-hour candle. Look at that. It has a nice tail. The tail came down to the low, and now the engulfing part is pretty nice, right? Let's see. Let's zoom in closely. Look at the 4-hour candle. It looks nice. We don't have any 9s, but we do have a green 1 breaking above the range, and we have a green 2 going above a green 1 breaking above the range, right? What we talked about with this is basing out. So we have 1, 2, 3. So it looks like a proper wave. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with an A, B, C. We have a base, and we're breaking above the base. So we had a 9 down here, and we had a 9 sell. We printed these red dots. So the big resistance point from the 4-hour chart is breaking above 661 billion. So let's take a quick peek at THETA. Or I might have to do a separate video because we're already above our time limit. Let's see. I mean, I guess it's technically the same thing, right? I mean, it looks nice, right? We have a flag here, and we have an impulse. But we also had a flag here, right? It looked like we were flagging out, but look what happened. We dumped, right? So, they don't always work out. Anything else? Well, we did have a 9 here, right here. So I'll put a line right here, and that's kind of where, $2.18 is really the big point where we need to hold above. So I would say between $2 and $2.10, we should definitely hold above, and $2.18 to $2.30, we need to break above. So those are kind of the goals we have with THETA. And, when I zoom in here, let's see if we have any counts we can look at. We do have a 3-wave move. Well, we actually have a 5-wave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have, it could be a diagonal in here, right? So maybe a 3-way pullback. I really want to see it get up here in the retracement level. So let's see if I draw a Fibonacci retracement between the 618 and the 786. And if you skip the video, highly recommend watching the Bitcoin part of the video, because I go over some very, I think, knowledgeable stuff that anybody can take. And it will make much more sense when you look at the THETA stuff. So that's kind of where we're at. We're waiting for Bitcoin. It's looking decent so far, but we're kind of, in between some support and resistance in here. So we got to work ourselves out of it. But yeah, I like the wave count. I like the structure. It's looking pretty good. XRP real quick. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're right back down to the this upper trend line here. It's looking like a nice ascending triangle. So, we want to start catching some bids in here. But yeah, it's also looking well. If we break the trend line, it's going to look not so good. But we'll talk about that. Real quick, Theta Fuel looking pretty good. If Bitcoin can get a bid in here, then this looks like a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder, and we can break out. So it's looking pretty decent. I mean, Theta Fuel looks, I think, better than most because we're so far away from the bull market support band. We're closer to the resistance than we are the support. And we're still in this rising sort of channel in here. So it's looking nice. We'll talk much more about it on the next video, but that will do it for this one. I appreciate you guys. If you can, hit that like button. It really helps out. And drop a comment. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.